professors, dear judges. The topic of our group is the impact of increasing online education resources on a student from different families in the context of COVID-19 epidemic. The 5 members on the screen are our team members. My name is Tang Zhimeng, and I will do the presentation today. During the outbreak of COVID-19, online education was widely promoted in China. In March 2020, the number of online education users rose to 423 million. However, limited by the economic level, many backward places have seen students absent from online classes due to internet equipment and signal issues. Online education under the COVID-19 is facing many difficulties, such as the quality of courses, the internet, the gap between urban and rural areas. Consequently, it is necessary to explore online education equity on a student from different families in the context of COVID-19. According to relevant research, students from poor families and rural families have a relatively low performance after the epidemic. It means that the implementation of online education under COVID-19 epidemic will widen the gap between students with different family conditions. Different from traditional education, online education relies on good network conditions and good home learning environment. Considering that internet penetration rate in central and western China is relatively low, the quality of online education may be unstable. Our research will examine the issue of online education equity in China's undeveloped areas in the context of COVID-19 epidemic. The research issue is closely related to the SDG 4, quality education. It calls for the inclusion and equity of education to cover all people, irrespective of age, gender, language, social birth, property, as well as children and youth. Especially those in vulnerable situations should have access to inclusive, equitable, quality education. Therefore, the research issue of online education equity in China's undeveloped areas has the significance of education equity and sustainable development. We can say that previous scholars have done corresponding research on education economy and capital accumulation, and the general understanding is that the popularization of online education promotes the fairness of education. However, few studies have considered the impact of network equipment and signal problems on education in remote areas. And online education faces more difficulties in the event of COVID-19 outbreak. For the research methodology part, a sample of the third grade in Central China will be selected as a research object. There are 3 hypotheses. First, compared with urban family learning, rural family students' performance is lower. Second, compared with other students, the performance of poor students is lower. Third, compared with the only child, the academic performance of non-only child is lower. About the data and descriptive statistics, the student's academic performance will be calculated and standardized by z-score and min-max methods. This score was used to establish normal distribution data. The min-max method is used to weigh the difference between the maximum and the minimum data of the sample, and the variable relationship between the standardized scores is established. And the third part of this conclusion, efficiency of the research. These 2 pages show the data we found on the internet. This is another page that shows the data. Next, I will talk about the implication. Online education may have different effects on different families. However, for individual students and families, participating in online learning requires payment of additional equipment and communication costs. It increases the financial burden of the family. Therefore, While online learning narrows the educational gap between regions, it cannot effectively narrow the gap in educational resources among students in the same region. On the contrary, it may further widen the gap. And this research also has limitations. First, the sample size and index of this paper are limited. Further research can expand the index system and sample size, so as to further investigate the influence of other factors on students' online learning effectiveness. Next, this paper is an investigation of students' short-term academic performance, and the more significant problem is the long-term impact on students' further study and career choice. In the end, this paper only focuses on a sample of junior high school in a city in central China. The explanatory power of the conclusions of this paper is limited to some extent. For the conclusion part, the study found that students from different family conditions have seen a widening gap in performance, especially students from poor and rural families. In response to the research conclusion of this article, we make three suggestions. First, the government should appropriately reduce internet tariffs in rural areas. Second, the government should provide strong policy support for workers to resume work and employment. Third, schools should fully understand students in advance. Parents should balance the education investment for children of different ages and create a supervised and motivating family environment for their children. This is the references we used for this research. Thank you very much. Thank you for your listening, all professors and judges. Thank you.